to the interview. So I had a question from Mr. Love. He asked, "What is in your playlist right now?"
My playlist?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, I have been listening to some independent artists. Um, what have I been listening to? You like caught me off guard with that. I've been like kind of scrambling to. Well, I just was listening to Vic Mensa, but here in DC,
Okay.
Jay-Z's going on today in a few
Mm-hmm.
minutes. So I've been listening to Vic Mensa's new album, which came out a couple months ago. There's some independent artists here in DC, Grindstone. Been
Okay.
listening to his album, and a young lady named Lizzie in New York, who's also independent. Asheru here in DC. Again, these are all independent artists. I love Kendrick Lamar. I love Chance the Rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, you caught me. Bahama D is like one of my favorite rappers. I know that's so old school, but
No, you good. You good. Muhammad is nice. It's hot. She's hot. She is
yes.
hot. What do you think of streaming?
Streaming what? Video, music?
Music. Just like Spotify, Pandora. Like, what do you think? What do you think of streaming? Like, what are your thoughts on streaming?
Oh, I like streaming. I think it gives people an opportunity to hear a lot of different music.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people probably don't listen to full albums anymore, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because of streaming, because you can just pick and choose. And there was a time when it feels good to hear, like, even Chance the Rapper's album, or like a Jay-Z, or where he's, kind of has a theme through the music. Kendrick Lamar is good at doing that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I enjoy that. But streaming, I think it's a great avenue for artists, because I hear people I've never heard before. You put on one of those stations, you might hear like an independent artist. You're like, oh, that hit me. Like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
And go look for it. So
But do
I
you
like.
right now we're not properly compensated for streaming? Do you think that'll eventually get fixed?
Well, that means artists need to come together and do a lot more around policy. There was a bill couple years ago that we worked on, which was for artists getting royalties from radio stations, the same as they would from online radio, where online radio
Mm-hmm.
has to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Regular radio does not. And then that same radio station doesn't have to pay online, right? So
Mm.
because they're a regular radio stations, so that's BS. And
Yeah.
so we were really fighting that. And if you have a Radio One station in Atlanta, which you do or you did, I don't know if they're still there. But Kathy Hughes would be on the radio every 5 seconds talking about, how horrible this was, that they're gonna try to take money and blah blah blah. But it really
Mm-hmm.
was for artists, and there are a lot of artists who have been really done wrong when it comes to publishing and rights, and this would have actually made some of them whole, or not even whole, but better, because there's a lot of homeless blues and jazz artists that aren't making any money, who, you know, all their publishing rights and stuff are gone. But this would have helped. And it's so sad that, she took such a black woman,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that how much this impacted pretty much, black music, particularly those who have been screwed back in the day around contracts and publishing.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this: when artists got their budget back in the day, what was it spent on? Like most of the time, because a lot of them, would you say, were unrecouped by the time they dropped their album?
Well, yeah, artists don't realize everything that's
Mm-hmm.
done gets charged back to them. Everything that I do for an artist would get charged back to them. I don't know if they thought that. They probably, most of them thought one lane. Whatever I literally spent or asked
Mm-hmm.
for from the label is what I was spending. But no, it wasn't that. It was the lunches I was going on, and the dinners, and the, to make sure that they bought your music, to make sure they sold your music, to make sure they played your music on video channels versus, radio stations. So all of that is part of their budget. They don't even realize it.
How much would an artist make off of a CD after I'm not talking about after they paid out from this, from that. I'm just talking about what were they supposed to get? Like, what was the highest that somebody would make off of a sale of a CD?
I wasn't so much knowing all of that so much, but what I do know, I think that it was like 30 cents, but that's not ever really what they would get. There's really not, you don't make money selling CDs. You make money by leveraging your brand and doing concerts and advertising and sponsorships and all of that. That's where you really make your money. Money is not made in selling records if you're with a record label at all.
What we're going to do, we're going to end this show. This is just part one. We're going to start part two very shortly for all my Facebook friends that are watching right now. For all the people that are listening, doing LegacyA100.com, next week we will continue. But what we'll do is we'll start this show and start part two. I have a lot more to ask you about. We'll get more into the Hip Hop Caucus and what you're currently doing. And we'll talk a little bit of the old school as well and talk about Mr. Paul Porter. Your mentor, would he be considered?
He would be considered one of my best friends.
Okay. Your best friend, one of your best friends, Mr. Paul Porter. Yeah. So we'll definitely talk about his new book coming up and everything like that. I just bought it today. So I'd like to definitely thank you all for tuning in to Turn the Music into Money. I am your host, Double O. Stay tuned for the next show, Music Industry Secrets with Miss Lisa Fager. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.